and autism. And specifically, I'm focusing on how applied behavior analysis therapy impacts development and learning. Um, so, applied behavioral analysis therapy um, is also known as ABA therapy, and that's what I'm going to be referring to it as is ABA therapy. So ABA is a type of therapy that focuses on improving specific behaviors. Some details of this: it could focus on social skills, it includes communication, it covers reading, fine motor dexterity, hygiene. It literally can be anything and everything that you can think of can be learned and practiced in ABA therapy. And the whole goal behind ABA is to learn these new behaviors and then apply these behaviors to real life situations. So the goal of my project for this semester was to observe the development of children that receive ABA therapy. I wanted to see what skills they were able to learn and how fast they were able to learn things, and to see if they were able to develop because or through this therapy as an aid. So the process behind ABA is really interesting. It was developed, or they started doing a lot of research for it, I think, in like the 70s. But the key concept behind it is positive reinforcement. So when a behavior is directly followed with a reward, a person is obviously more likely to repeat that behavior. And I know this sounds weird, but when I first learned about ABA therapy a while ago, it kind of reminded me of when you're like training an animal or something like that. Like when you want them to sit, you give them a treat, and eventually they know what you should be doing. And obviously we're dealing with human beings, so it's a little bit different, but these children are able to know eventually that once they perform a certain behavior, they'll get a reward for doing it. And eventually that behavior becomes a habit that doesn't need a reward. So the therapist will identify the goal behavior with the child. And once the child repeats or performs that behavior that we're trying to get them to do, then they receive a reward. And another key behind this to make ABA work is repetition and consistency. So if a child performs a behavior and doesn't get a reinforcement right away, they're not going to know that that behavior is a good thing, and they're not going to keep doing that. And if you're not consistent, that's also going to cause issues as well. So you have to be consistent and repetitive in this process. And so it takes a little bit of time, but it has shown to be very successful. So the first part of my project that I volunteered for a program called Kids on the Move. I think this is based or focused in Utah, and this company, they provide ABA therapy, but they also have other therapies and programs for families that have children with special needs, specifically autism. And so something that they do, they have a website and anybody can volunteer. So this is my plug for them. Go to Kids on the Move and volunteer, because it's a really cool environment and just situation to be in and see and learn from. But you can watch kids while their parents go receive classes and training on how to help their children with special needs and things like that. So I volunteered for half of my time for Kids on the Move for their respite program, which is where you watch the kids with special needs. And it was really interesting. I did this 2 different times, and it was cool to see how the children had changed and progressed through the 2 different meetings that I had with them. So I did it a few weeks apart from each other, and it's typically kind of the same groups of people that do it every time. It's like a program with the parents, so you're not getting tons of new kids. It's usually the same people, which was helpful in this situation to be able to see different things that they had learned. And it was cool just to see that some of the kids had improved in certain skills, and those kids that improved in certain skills, they received ABA therapy. So for example, one kid that I was playing with the first time, we were playing with Play-Doh, and he, like a lot of young kids, when you get Play-Doh, they just love to like mix it and smash it all together and kind of ruin it. And kids with autism have a lot of high sensory needs and are just very in tune with their sensory skills. And so they love Play-Doh and slime and things like that. So Play-Doh is definitely a popular toy, but that doesn't last very long with them because they destroy it so quickly. But this kid, I was talking to his parents afterwards. His mom told me that they were about to start a new program for him in ABA to learn how to play with Play-Doh. And so the second time I met with him a couple weeks later, I was playing with him, and it was really cool to see that when we got the Play-Doh, he separated it all out, and he would like roll the Play-Doh into balls and then flatten it out. And he didn't really, at the end he did kind of mix it together a little bit too, but he played with it in a very different manner the second time because he was learning through ABA therapy how to work on that. And so that was really cool just to see in the course of a couple of weeks as a pretty big behavioral change. The second part of my project that I did was observe ABA therapy in action. And so my little brother's autistic, and so I was able to see this through him and his therapist. So he lives in Wisconsin, and this is WEEP is the company that he's with right now. It's the Wisconsin Early Autism Project, and they're all about early intervention with kids. And so once a child is diagnosed with autism, they try to get in there as soon as they can to help with intensive therapy. It's usually 30 to 40 hours a week of this therapy with the child to help them progress. So the typical kind of setup of the program, there will be one therapist to one child, and there'll be a room with no one else and no other major distractions. So you're not really going to have the TV on, your mom can't sit in, things like that. If there's a big window so they can see outside, you're probably going to try to cover that up or find a different room so there's no distractions. And the therapist and the child typically work for 45 minutes, and then they take a 15-minute break to go play. So the child can go to a different room, they can go play outside, they can do whatever they want in that 15 minutes, but the 45 minutes with the therapist is work time. And they do tons of different programs that literally can range from so many different things. So the different examples are like assigning names to pictures, or memorizing phone numbers, or potty training someone, or telling them to come sit. So I was able, just through my history of ABA therapy, I remember my little brother's first program, he had almost turned 3 years old, and he's very severely autistic. So he's nonverbal and has trouble with a lot of different things. And so when he was almost 3, his very first program was just learning to come sit down on a chair when someone sat at the table. And I remember it took him hours to do that, and it was so hard for him to grasp that idea, and he just had so many meltdowns and tantrums, and it was not a good experience. But by the end of, I think, that week, he was able to come sit when he was asked to. And that was really cool to see that. And now he's been receiving this therapy for almost 10 years. And he's at the point now where he's learning a program where you ask him, what's your mom's phone number? He's able to recite my mom's phone number, which is really cool, especially since he's nonverbal. He doesn't necessarily understand what a phone number is, or even what numbers represent, or anything like that. I don't know if he does grasp that or not. He doesn't really tell us, but he learns now when he's prompted with what's your phone number, or what's your mom's number, he can recite her phone number, which I think is a really cool thing. And he was able to learn all of these skills through ABA therapy. So the main takeaways that I learned from this project was just first and foremost how much we take for granted, just the everyday skills that we have, just like, I don't know, making my breakfast today and calling someone and walking to my car and even opening my door. Those are all things, whether they're fine or gross motor skills, that I definitely take for granted but not everybody is able to have those same abilities. And so we really are lucky if we have those. So it was just kind of an eye-opening experience with that, I guess. Also, another thing that I learned was that ABA therapy can immensely aid in a child's learning. And so I think that children with autism, or any child in general, is definitely absolutely capable of learning things. Obviously, some children, it comes a little bit more naturally to than others, and others have to work a little bit harder. But I think that the ABA therapy can 100% help catapult child's learning and help them develop important life skills. And so as they develop these important life skills, they're able to learn more. And I think that ABA was really fascinating in watching a child's development and just seeing it, I guess, in the case of my brother from ages of like 3 to 12 now, but then also just seeing it, watching another kid's program. He was learning how to assign names to faces in his family. And by the end of the day, he's able to get that skill. And so just watching the development in a few hours even. So this therapy can help kids develop in a couple hours. It can help them develop in a couple weeks and even years. There's many different applications for this. And that is my project. I need to stop this.